And then one day it hit me and I felt dumber than it should be legally allowed. Welcome to Inventors Dojo. My name is Henry and I'm an inventor. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so you can get updates on my invention, which I'm making into a product, which I then plan on selling. Today, we're going to be talking about this socket, which is a 3D printed replica of the metal one that I had made. If you want to know more about how I got the metal one made, please check the link in the description. The socket has four main parts: a compression spring, an inner socket, 3 ball bearings, and an outer socket. Additionally, there's also a nut or a lug nut in this case. When we examine the lug nut cannot move because it is held in place by the ball bearings. In order to release the nut, the ball bearings need to be moved, but they are kept in place by the inner and outer socket. To move the ball bearings, we need to create some space. We can do this by engaging the outer socket, which has a special place where the ball bearings can move to. Once we create the space for the bearings to move, the nut can be easily removed. After the nut is removed, the spring will push the outer socket back into place. The same process can be used to put the nut back in. In the previous video, I talked about how I learned 3D software and got 3D printers at my house. If you haven't seen the last video, please check the link in the description so you could get all caught up. Once I had everything I needed at my fingertips, things started moving a lot faster. My first approach was that I needed to start making sockets as quickly as possible. So I wanted to make 3D printed versions of the metal one that I had made. I took it apart and used a caliper to measure everything and started designing on the computer. The only parts that I was going to have to buy were the ball bearings and the compression springs. The ball bearings were easy to find. All I had to do was get on macmaster.com, and a few days later they got delivered to my house. If you're ever looking for hardware like this, you will be doing yourself a huge favor by starting at the macmaster.com website. You have no idea how much suffering I had to do before I actually found out about them. The compression springs, however, were much more difficult. I tried different stores, different websites, all over the internet, and I found nothing. I found myself in a position again where I thought to myself, I'm going to have to learn how to make these things. Again, I'm going in knowing absolutely nothing about springs or how to make them. All I knew was that I was going to have to do a lot of research. So I hopped on YouTube to see what I found. And that is where I found the This Old Tony channel. This guy is brilliant. If you're into metalworking at all, check out his channel. I will put a link to his channel in the description. So, with some of his videos and a few other videos, I figured this is going to be easy. Give me 2 minutes, I'll be done. Unfortunately, making springs with this kind of precision is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I needed a spring that could fit between the inner and outer socket, as well as have enough clearance to fit the inner socket inside of it. And it had to be perfect every time. And then one day it hit me and I felt dumber than it should be legally allowed. It finally dawned on me that I have complete control of this design. I could just buy whatever spring I wanted and just build my socket around that. I am very embarrassed to say that this simple and stupid little mistake cost me more than 3 months worth of work, plus whatever money I spent in the process. The lesson I learned here was that I have to manage my focus and be very careful with rabbit holes. I always say that in trying to make my invention, I almost became a professional spring maker. If you're trying to make your own product and, like me, are having to do everything yourself, this is a problem that you're gonna run into. So please be careful. These days, every time I get stuck, I just step back and remind myself what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. Things like 3D software and 3D printers and pretty much every step along the process can and will become a rabbit hole that will engulf me. And next thing you know, I will be an expert at something else other than what I'm supposed to be, which is my product. In the end, you have to be abundantly clear about what you're trying to do. And you have to define what you're going to be an expert at. If you don't manage your focus and your attention, it can cost you time, money, and maybe your entire project. This is important, so I'm going to say it again. You have to learn to manage your focus and your attention, and learn the difference between the two. In fact, your entire life will get a lot better once you start managing these two things. Throughout this process, I've come up with a couple of different inventions and innovations. But if I start working on those, then I'll neglect this one, and I can't allow myself to do that. Same thing with this channel. It takes a lot of work and dedication to make these videos. And if I'm not careful, I will become a YouTube expert and not what I'm supposed to be doing. So it is a management job, and I have to be very mindful because it is so easy to get sidetracked in the process. Having said all of that, I was finally out of my spring hell and I was ready to start working on what I knew was going to be the final design for my product. And that's all the time I have for today. But please subscribe so you can get updates on this journey. Also, please hit that like button. It really does help a lot. And don't forget to please share this video with someone who you feel might enjoy it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Stopping video. Oh, this is not recording. Ah, you mother. And this is gonna suck if I have to do this whole